both can be true, right? You didn't necessarily mean to hurt them. You most likely didn't. But, that can be true, but that doesn't mean that should be part of your apology. Like that, only one of those is an apology.
It also doesn't mean that they weren't hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you didn't mean to
exactly. Hey, 1 Degree fam. I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Zan. And this is the 1 Degree Podcast, where we talk about what it looks like to be married as followers of Jesus.
Look, we know that life gets full. Marriage, kids, work, church, sports, the list goes on and on. But we believe that a thriving marriage does not happen by accident.
Each episode will give you real conversations, practical tools, and biblical encouragement to help you connect deeply with your spouse and live on mission together.
So, whether you're folding laundry, driving to work, or maybe even working out, we're glad you're here with us.
Let's dive in.
What is up, 1 Degree fam? Why did you try
Because you had a pause, so I went to go for it. What is up, 1 Degree fam? Welcome back to the comfy, cozy, virtual leather couch. We are so happy that you are joining us here today, where we're going to talk about how it's too late to apologize. It's too late.
That probably sounds so bad.
It probably does, because I have
mics.
I have a terrible singing voice.
Who's that? Timberland? Timberland?
Justin Timberlake?
Oh, it is Justin Timberlake.
Is it? I think so.
I think I'm right.
JT.
No, I think I'm right.
What?
I think that it's not Timberland is a different person than Justin Timberlake.
Oh, I thought you were going for
I'm trying to tap into
Timberlake.
my 5th grade brain. I'm pretty sure that's when that song came out. No,
Oh,
it's One Republic. No, Timberland
Wow.
and One Republic.
Oh, okay.
This
All
is
right.
the one I'm thinking. Timberland. I said that so white. Timberland? Is this Timberland?
In all seriousness, we are going to be talking about how to apologize well so that it's actually received. It isn't just, trying to brush something under the rug, because I think all of us, we've experienced that, where we say that we're sorry, but it does absolutely nothing. Like,
Did
it
you want
doesn't.
to do this because 2 weeks ago you called me out on the podcast about that Sunday that I said, can we just move on?
Did I call you on the podcast?
Yes.
Oh.
In depth.
I didn't mean, I genuinely didn't, maybe subconsciously, maybe that's why.
A
But
Freudian slip.
yeah, but anyway, sometimes I think all of us I think all of us have experienced times where we apologize and it does very little. Like, it doesn't reduce any tension in the room. Your spouse doesn't soften. It doesn't lead to reconciliation, and it can lead to just continued frustration. And so we're going to talk about, maybe the words you said weren't the problem. Maybe it wasn't a real apology.
Maybe
and
it
so
was the heart behind the word.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk through, okay, so what does it look like to apologize well with sincerity and with actual change? And so first of all, we're going to say, why do most apologies, or a lot of apologies, not land?
Typically, apologies in marriage, in any relationship, but especially marriage, those close, unfiltered relationships are actually one of a few disguised things. First, potentially being a bid to end the conflict. I am uncomfortable with, my nervous system is uncomfortable with what is going on right now, and I would like it to be over. So I said sorry. Can we move on? That's my
sand-coded right
method
there.
of choice. It'd be like, all right, I'm over it. I am ready to move on.
Yes.
That is how I go.
If you listen to the podcast, apparently I called Zan out for that the other week.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is you, though. That is most often
my
you.
Apology of choice. I mean, I'll actually be sorry. Man, if I could go back, if I knew it was going to be like this.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. You're not apologizing for the action. You're apologizing. Oh, if I knew it was going to be this bad, I wouldn't have said anything.
I could get in a time machine and prevent this whole little shindig.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have said it.
It's not apologizing for what you said. It's just you feel you don't want to deal with the repercussions.
No, it wouldn't be an I feel bad. It would be I would like this to not happen.
Yes, exactly. So that's you.
Okay. Or a defense. So it's I'm sorry that you feel that way. I feel like this
Mm,
is the classic when you think of I think maybe this happens in more people, but I think of it as, like, the generational like, they talk about when you when people open up to their parents about, like, X, Y, and Z, like, this is how it felt, and it's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way," or, like, I don't know,
yeah.
like, it's about you. Like, it's not me. I'm not taking the blame. I'm sorry that that's how you feel about it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the third one is kind of my apology of choice. If I'm gonna call out Zan, I gotta call it myself as well. It's
So
like,
true, and this one's so much worse.
okay. It is the, "Hey, I'm sorry," and I usually won't say "but." It's like that whole idea of like,
No,
"I'm
you
sorry,
very
but."
strategically try to. It's and I'll call you out for, like, that was just an unspoken but. You'll be
Yeah.
like, "I'm sorry, and you did this." And I'm like, that doesn't work.
Like, I'll make sure not to say but the heart sentiment or posture is the same, right? Like, basically, I am blame
No,
shifting to
what you
be
do
like,
is like, "I'm sorry I said that. I know I should not have said that." Pause. Breathe. Hope I forget that this is a transition. I will say I would like for you that's how you do it.
yeah, I think that's legitimate though, of like,
Nah, that's an I'm sorry,
no, no,
but
no. That's one of the things we're gonna talk about here is like, hey, you don't have to brush your spouse's behavior under the rug. It's like you can apologize for your actions, but I think that there are some times where I
But
try to blame shift and be like, oh, I did this
if
because
you
you did
didn't say
that.
this, then I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
have
said
said
that.
that. Exactly. And that's kind of so those are the three, right? Of like, oh, you just want to move on from the conversation. You are a Zan.
Mhm.
Or, you want to blame shift and be like, I wouldn't have done this if you hadn't done that. That's a Nathaniel. Or,
Big dog.
the whole like defensive, oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way, which is just not very genuine. And I think that the thing is, I think a lot of times these, whatever you want to call them, fake apologies or whatever, they aren't inherently like malicious. It's
Mhm.
not like, oh, I am conspiring to gaslight my spouse or to make them feel bad so that I don't have to apologize. I don't think that's, maybe if you're in a very unhealthy marriage, maybe that's the case. But I think for,
Probably some narcissism. I
yeah,
feel like in a narcissistic situation,
yeah,
I could
but
see it.
like I think for the majority of us that end up in marriage disagreements, like that's not the case. It's not this like malicious, behavior. It's more of just like self-protective. It's more honestly, it's honestly probably just a little bit of lack of humility of, protecting your ego. And I want to make sure that for me, I think I want Zan to know that I'm not the only one in the wrong. Like, and I think that's where my head goes of like, okay, I recognize that I shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have said this or, whatever it may be. But I also want her to know that like she wasn't in the right with how she approached the situation is kind of like, and that's just like a lack of humility and just that's egocentric.
If you haven't noticed, we do have the litany of humility hanging next to our
Hmm.
sink if you wanna
Yeah.
take and look at that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now explain why you are just like, oh, just end the conversation.
'Cause I don't like sitting with everyone's emotions for a long period of time.
So you're just like, move on.
I have a lot of pride. I wouldn't say that's where my pride is manifesting. That's like my impatience.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
very impatient
Yeah, there we
in
go.
those
So I
situations.
need to work on my pride. You need to work on your
I need to
patience.
work on my pride too. That's why I read that when I brush my teeth every morning. It's really good. We've talked about it before, but
Yeah,
side note, litany of humility, especially the bottom stanza, that's what I always read. It's like the desire for others to be celebrated, the desire for others to be esteemed. It's like,
that's
oh
true.
man, it's really humbling for me.
It's very
Um,
true.
you want to talk about the whole concept of the corporate world as a
Oh, and
corporate
I think
person?
like why this is the case. Like this is how we apologize. I even see it for me being in a more like corporate environment. Like this is kind of how we are passively taught to address issues
It's like the
in most work
PR.
environments, right?
It's the
Yeah.
PR way.
It is the PR way. And so like it makes sense that people approach conversations in marriage like this because this is kind of how they're passively taught to approach apologies in work, of like brush it under the rug, don't admit fault, explain why that was the case, distance yourself from the situation, all of those kinds of things, and I think we take those that we learn in our typical work environments and we bring them into our home. And you could say the same thing. Most of us probably didn't have apologies modeled well when we were growing up. Like I know our parents' generation didn't
That's a
really
side note.
set the example for that.
That's like one of my biggest goals in parenting, or like conscious thoughts I have in parenting, is modeling apologizing well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a simple thing because it's not simple to say, I'm going to always be a gentle, kind, patient parent. That takes a whole lot of uprooting of sin, and there's just a lot that
You're
goes
going to
into
make
that.
mistakes. You're still sinful.
I'm just thinking like that's my constant prayer, but that one I fail on a million times a day. The ability to apologize is, to me, and maybe this comes down to so many things, it's just like I just want control. It's like that's something I can easily control. I can choose, like, after I have that whatever biological response, and it's not an excuse, but I like blow up about something. It's like, well, I can control that I'm choosing to apologize and modeling that well and admitting sin and genuinely. Anyway, that's just a side note. That's like one of my biggest goals in parenting, is that my kids will never say, I never apologized to them when I wronged them.
Yeah. And so it makes sense of most of us, we didn't have it modeled well. And then as we grow up and we're either learning it from other kids or we're learning it from our corporate world jobs, it's like, oh yeah, we've never really been taught, how do we actually apologize for something? So let's transition to that. Like, what does a real apology require?
Well, since you're the expert.
Oh, since I'm the expert, because I have so many times that I need to apologize for.
No, I'm saying you're the expert because my apologies are always wrong.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first thing is like specificity. Like, am I saying that?
Specificity is a word.
Specificity. Yep. Like you are being specific about what you're apologizing for. You know, instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm sorry, can we move on? Or like, oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I do personally love a blanket, like, I'm sorry for anything that has been bothering you in the last. It's part of my impatience. Like,
notice that? I'm sorry for anything that's been bothering you. Like, even in that, like your statement.
I'm going to admit, I'm not good at this. It's not that I don't feel sorry. It's just I don't want to deal with all of it. I don't want to deal with the word art of it all.
It's not about the word art.
No, it feels like I have to get it perfectly right.
It's not. It's about the fact that you feel more sorry about like the situation you're in than the action that led to that.
Maybe.
But yeah, so not just like, you know, this example on here of I'm sorry for whatever upset you. It's like, hey, I know that I raised my voice and I shouldn't have done that. And that was not me being patient and calm. And I'm sorry for doing that. You know, like, so specificity there.
Name it. Exactly.
And then again, maybe that's more Zan. But then for me, it's not like conditional. Like the apology isn't conditional on the other person, and like you're not excusing away behavior. So you're not using the but, you know, if the
No
you
but.
also, you know, hey, you know, I'm sorry for raising my voice. You also spoke to me really rudely. You know, that would be a classic sibling, you know, argument that pops up of Zan speaking harshly to me and then me being like raising my voice, and then afterwards being like, hey, I know I shouldn't have raised my voice, but you also spoke harshly to me. So that would be like us in our flesh. Like that is a weak, and that is not a good example, you know, that is a poor example, but that's kind of like where we would traditionally fall in a kind of classic in our flesh type argument. And so, you know, you don't, in an apology, you're not trying to negotiate, you're not trying to defend your actions in the same breath. That doesn't mean, again, that you just excuse your spouse's behavior or actions, but it doesn't mean like you're casting the blame on them for it. And so you're being specific, you're not using this conditional language, you are acknowledging the impact, not just the intent. And so this idea of like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, versus like, hey, I'm so sorry, I see that this hurt you. And that's such a slight change, and according to Zan, just word games, but notice the difference there. Like, hey, I'm sorry that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. You're still kind of like making it about yourself. Like, oh, you're defending yourself, you're excusing yourself of like, hey, you're making about your intent, like, I didn't mean to do that, so sorry, versus like, hey, I'm so sorry, I see that this hurts you, of like, hey, I am recognizing, I am seeing that you were hurt by this. And I think again, it's so slight, but like that slight change or that slight difference speaks a whole lot in how you're approaching the situation. And so I think that like both can be true, right? You didn't necessarily mean to hurt them. You most likely didn't. But, that can be true, but that doesn't mean that should be part of your apology. Like that, only one of those is an
It also
apology.
doesn't mean that they weren't hurt
Yeah,
just because you
exactly.
didn't mean to do it.
Exactly. And then I think that the fourth one is so key, because I think this is often neglected in apologies or in situations, and it just causes us to repeat the whole cycle. Like a stated change or a stated repair or something that you're going to seek to do differently. So not just like an empty promise of like, oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I see that I hurt you. I'm going to try not to do that again. Like that's so empty. That's so vague of, hey, I'm so sorry for raising my voice. In the future, when I feel frustrated, I am going to take a deep breath and I'm going to ask you to rephrase something and I'm going to refrain from raising my voice. That's very different. Or, if you did something that requires repair of, hey, I'm sorry, I backed the car into the mailbox and I wasn't paying attention because I was shuffling on Spotify. I'm going to
Shuffling on
go, or I
Spotify.
was changing songs on Spotify,
Oh.
or whatever. I'm gonna go and fix the mailbox, and create repair there. And so I think that like some sort of stated change, or in the future, I'm gonna not be on my phone when I'm driving, and
Good
all of
call.
that kind of stuff. So hey, what's gonna be different? How are you going to repair it? Something concrete, some sort of concrete action that you are going to take that your spouse can then hold you accountable to.
Yep. That's good. All right. Let's make it even more practical because when you are standing in the kitchen frustrated, if you have to think through, I feel like the simpler we make it, just like our conflict resolution
Yeah,
plan, the simpler we make it, the easier it is to draw on it in times of
yeah.
inflammatory times. So, what kind of structure can we use to remember the apology?
Name it,
Claim
own it,
it. Just kidding.
name it,
Name it, own it.
name it, and claim it, baby. Name it,
Sow those seeds.
own it, acknowledge the impact, and the repair change if possible. So those 4 steps. You're going to name it, you're going to own it, you're not going to blame shift, you're going to acknowledge how it impacted your spouse, and then you're going to state the repair or the change or whatever that may be. So
Give
the
us an
example
example.
example is, hey, I raised my voice at dinner and I know that was wrong of me. I should not have raised my voice. I can see that it made you shut down and that you were very hurt by me raising my voice. And so I want to handle it differently next time. Can we talk about what that would look like? Or how could I have handled this situation better? And then next time you seek to, like, that's how you handle the situation.
Mhm.
Like that's a classic example. And again, it doesn't I want to be careful. It's not what Zan was alluding to. It's not about just like wording it right. Like our hope and our goal is that you have this heart change and this heart posture of, hey, I'm not going to excuse my behavior. Hey, I am going to acknowledge how they feel. Hey, I am going to own up for the mistake that I made. Even if I think that what my spouse did led me to react in that way, I'm not going to focus on what they did. I'm going to focus on how I reacted. And I think it's important. And I think that it doesn't mean, and we'll touch on this really quickly here, so I won't go too in depth. It doesn't mean that you have to just excuse away your spouse's behavior or never address it. But it does mean that when you are apologizing, focus on your own actions and how you can grow. Because I think that all of us, in the midst of an argument, in the midst of a fight or disagreement, whatever you want to call it, like we have areas that we could have handled better. And so focus on those areas. It's that same idea of taking the log out of your own eye first and focusing on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The one thing I would add to this is if the heart posture is the goal, if you having a genuinely apologetic heart and a genuinely soft heart towards your spouse, as the preface to this apology. For me, I would say that's really not fully possible apart from prayer and
hmm,
power of the Holy Spirit. I feel just from experience, I usually need to pray about it or have been praying about it and have that heart change. I feel like the right word, I don't know, it's just like it is all just words if it's not coming from a pure
A
heart.
pure heart.
And I feel like a pure heart is only possible by the Holy Spirit because there's just always going to be
Yeah.
sin and pride and impatience and all of those things in what we say. So
Yeah.
that's my one addition.
That's fair. And so now let's really quickly, before we wrap up, let's address like, okay, what do you do if you don't think you were in the wrong? Or what do you do if you really think that like, oh man, like I wouldn't have responded like this if my spouse hadn't, done X, Y, or Z?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like more than somebody, at least for me, more than wanting I am sorry to be spoken, it's just an awareness of the reality of this bothered me, this hurt me, this, I feel like just an acknowledgement for the impact of the situation, for the reality of the situation. So even if you weren't at fault and there's nothing that you would change, maybe even, and I mean, I would say there's probably something that could be changed. But regardless, even if you were not at fault, you can acknowledge that what you did or what happened had impact on your spouse. So I would start there, and you could just be honest about that. You don't have to like pretend to feel guilty for
Hmm.
something. Like you could just say, like, if I'm being honest, I mean, we've had conversations like
Yeah.
this before, both ways of like, if I'm being honest, I really don't necessarily feel I know this I know you feel hurt. I don't know that I did something wrong if I look at this
Yeah.
objectively. Um,
And I think that's important, right? Of like, hey, I can see that this hurt you, and that to me matters more than who's right or wrong.
mhm.
You know, I am struggling to see like what I did. You can like help me understand or help me lead to this place, but I know that this hurt you, and for that, I want to address this, and I'm sorry.
It I not to keep drawing it to parenting, but that feels like a lot of times what does happen in parenting of like, "No, I would not change that I just took this away from you. I don't like that you are sad right now and you're like if there was a
Hmm.
consequence for your child.
Yeah.
Obviously, this isn't how marriages, but at least I think you're probably not taking away things as a consequence. But I think that we've had those conversations of like, "I'm sorry that" I don't know, it's hard to draw a
Well, no, because
comparison.
I wouldn't apologize for a consequence.
Yeah, it's not an apology. That's why I guess I'm saying that's why it's
It would
similar.
be more
It's
of
like,
like,
I see that
so
this hurt you.
I think a better analogy would be like, you know, um, like you're passing the ice cream shop and they want ice cream and you said no to ice cream. Like, hey, man, that's not a good analogy either. I don't know. I don't
It's
think
falling
it's like
apart, but
fair
right
to,
now we are saying, how do we acknowledge impact without apologizing?
yeah.
And so I feel like saying, like, "I know that you're hurt because we took your groovy girls away,
Hmm.
but that is a consequence of this." Like, I don't know, like, I don't again, we're not having a consequence in marriage, whatever,
Let's
scratch it.
yeah, scratch it.
It
Let's
just
bring it
makes
back.
sense.
Let's bring it
It
back.
makes sense in my head. They're similar concepts of, like, we stand by what we did. I also acknowledge that there is impact to it. Um, anyway.
Or even I go back to even if you don't necessarily like you don't necessarily stand by what you did, but you don't understand how it led to where you are now,
Hmm.
you can be like, "Hey," again, that concept of, "I know that this hurt you, and that matters to me more than who's right. I'm sorry for that," and everything like that.
Nice.
And that's where it's, hey, you can without without taking the blame for something you feel like you didn't do, like, focus on the emotions of it. Um,
One last thing I would add to kinda wrap it up unless you have another
no,
thought.
I have a couple others.
Okay. Well, feel free to say those.
No, I was gonna say that, like, also too, you can apologize. Let's go back to the other situation where it's, "Oh, I felt like I raised my voice in response to you being rude." You can apologize for raising your voice. That was in the wrong, like, no matter what your spouse did, and you can say, "Hey, I'm sorry for raising my voice. I should not have done that. In the future, I wanna make sure not to raise my voice. Let's talk through what that could look like." You can also address like, "Hey, I did not appreciate the way that you talked to me," but that's a different conversation. That's not in with the apology. It's like, "Hey, I apologize for this. Let's talk through it. We're done talking through it." And then, later, hey, can we revisit? I do want to talk about the fact that I did not appreciate the way that you approached this, or the way that you brought this up, or the tone that you used when you said this. And so it's separating the situation of your spouse from the apology, because the apology still stands on its own and it's necessary. And that doesn't mean you just brush the other behavior under the rug. Like, you could address it at your weekly marriage meeting. You could address it at the end of the day. You could address it at a different time, whenever that is. But it's just like, it's kind of recognizing that and separating it from the apology, if that makes sense. And I think that, that needed to be addressed, or needed to be said, or something like that. So I think too, the last thing that I would say before
I'm just going to talk about this last point.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think on the flip side, you don't want to fall into the trap of being so quick to apologize in order to just move on past things. Like, even if apologizing well, but like, it goes back to what we talk about of like, a marriage void of conflict is probably not the healthiest marriage, because two simple people living in close proximity, if you're being honest, if there is a healthy dynamic of like, there isn't some power struggle of like somebody's constantly keeping this person from speaking their mind and those kind of things, like, you're going to have conflict. And so in the same way, like, if you are just constantly trying to brush everything under the rug and apologizing to smooth things out just so that there isn't conflict, and you're just nipping things in the bud with a quick apology, that's just as unhealthy, arguably, as bad apologies, And so it's that idea of that doesn't necessarily lead to a healthier marriage. It's just quieter and void of conflict. So not falling into that trap.
Don't over apologize for something. Like,
and if it's something that if the other person, again, generally speaking, this isn't our disposition, at least for us. Like, we are self-defendant, but like, I could see in marriages where if you've constantly always take the blame, and to the point where you don't think the other person is ever at fault. It's like, if you know somebody else is at fault, don't apologize when they're like,
if you've reflected and you honestly believe that, like, after honest reflection, that you weren't at fault, and you don't just apologize to move on with life,
that's not
and
loving
everything.
to anyone.
That's not loving. And so, it can be kindly presented of like, hey, I've thought about this a lot. I've prayed about it. I'm just really struggling to see, why you're frustrated at me, or why you think I'm at fault. Can we talk through that? Because I think that, like Zan said, a marriage where just one person is always apologizing in the marriage, like that doesn't mean it's healthier. That means it's just like quieter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 1 degree shift.
Take it away.
If you come upon an apology this week, make sure to not fall into the but, or you also, or any of those ways, the shifting blame, or just try to stick to the apology format that we talked about, that name it, own it, acknowledge impact, and then repair. Or voice a change that you want to work together.
Claim it.
Name it and claim it, guys.
But seriously, name it, own it, acknowledge the impact, and then try to reach that reconciliation, that repair, what's going to be different.
All right. Catch you next week, 1 Degree fam.
Love you, 1 Degree fam.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the 1 Degree Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd be so appreciative if you take just a few seconds to leave a rating and a quick review. We love to hear your feedback, and those ratings really do help make it easier for others to find this podcast.
And if you want to continue this chat or share your takeaways, we'd love to hear from you. Head on over to our Instagram at the 1 Degree Podcast and leave a comment or send us a DM. We can't wait to hear from you. Catch you next week, 1 Degree fam.